Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video, I got some inspiration from buddies DM Armada and Red Zone Rogue with their recent kind of evaluations of card games. DM Armada just recently did a live stream where he kind of ranked card games as far as like killing it, looking strong, staying steady, looking shaky, whatever it means, right? All the different ones. And I wanted to do something similar to that, but I didn't want to just take what he did and like copy him. I don't feel like that's fair. So I wanted to kind of do my own take on it while still having fun with my community. So we're going to be going through a bunch of different card games today. And I'm going to be doing a 1 to 5 star ranking on 5 different elements that I think are very important for a card game. And I'll go in and explain those in just a second. But if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. Here we primarily do Flesh and Blood and Alpha Clash content. So if you're coming here looking for like different opinions on card games to play, hopefully I can help you out with that as well. But feel free to check out my other videos. If you're a long-standing supporter, thank y'all so much as always. I really appreciate it. Feel free to check out the Patreon and the Discord down below. So yeah, I'm going to link DM Armada's original stream down below. Please go look at that. Please go watch it. He did a really good job. Some opinions I agreed with, some opinions I didn't, but like that's the fun part of this, right? And I wanted to kind of give my own thought process on it. So I have a bunch of card games here. It's going to be a longer video. So I'll definitely try to put timestamps down below to help you go to the card game that you want the most opinion about. But my basic point of this video is to give my opinion on different elements of card games, because I feel like people like card games for different reasons. Some people like the great mechanics of a game. Some people like the lore and the story and the artwork behind it. Some people like the holistic experience, like dev support, where there's deck builders and good communities and things like that. And some people are casual players. Some people are competitive players, and they have different focuses based off that. So because of that, I came up with 5 factors. One is mechanics. Does the card game play well, right? Now, mechanics can be looked at in 2 different ways. Some people like very balanced mechanics, right, or very fair things, very incremental value type stuff like Flesh and Blood players. Some people like to feel powerful. Like they do want a certain level of balance, but they also want a certain level of power. Like My Hero Academia is a big one. YuGiOh is kind of like that, where like you have these loop decks, you have these abilities to just slam your opponent if you draw the right cards, and people like that, right? So there's different mechanics, but overall I want to rate that. I'm going to rate the artwork. That is the most subjective one of all 5 of mine. Some people love certain artwork, some people don't. I've had certain games like Alpha Clash is a good example, and we'll talk about it here in a second, where like I love the old school superhero artwork. Some people don't. Really just depends. But yeah, we'll go into that. Then we have the lore and the story. What's the background of the game, right? Is there something to cling on to as a player, right? Do you feel that connection to whatever deck or hero you're playing besides just, the game itself? Dev support is my 4th one. When it comes to dev support, I want to rank what is the developer doing outside of just sitting at the table and playing, right? Do they have deck builders? Do they have a functional website that has lore and like backgrounds for people to research? How is their social media? Are they having a good community? I have a background in marketing management. I'm a marketing manager at a creative agency. We specialize really in like the gaming and esports audience. So like I have a decent background in this, and I'll be able to speak to that. And then finally, depth of play. When I speak of depth of play, I don't mean like how deep do the mechanics go, which some people might think. I'm talking about, does the game service the brand new player to the hyper competitive player, right? Can you experience the gamut of different styles of play based off that, right? Are they able to support very casual players? Are they able to support like semi-competitive players, like players that like to have decent decks? And are they able to support like their competitive scene? So we'll get right into it. I'll try to keep this video somewhat short, but it's going to be a longer video. I just have to be okay with that. But first one is Alpha Clash here. So for mechanics, Alpha Clash is going to get a 4-star. The game is very solid mechanically. It's very even. There are some power cards, and there's cards that make you be able to feel powerful, like Here Comes the Boom, Kagan, really, really powerful cards that can kind of shape the game. But when it comes to mechanics, it's very much about managing board state, right? They have the recoil mechanic, whereas, they took like the best elements of a bunch of different card games and then put their own spin on it. And one of them is like the recoil mechanic. In a normal game, like let's say Magic, if you attack and you rest your unit or your creature when it's your turn, and if you attack my creature or attack me, I can't one, I can't declare blocks, but that creature won't deal damage back to you, right? In this game, even if I attack you and rest my creature or my clash card, if you attack my clash card on the swing back, it's still going to deal damage to your clash card. There's always a recoil mechanic. It can't actively declare a block, but it can deal damage if you try to deal damage to it. And that creates a whole new element of value you have to evaluate during your game. And just the general board state of the game is very even. It feels very good. There's no like general feel bad mechanics or uneven mechanics. It's very, very solid. So definitely a 4-star for that. When it comes to artwork, I give it a 4-star, but I understand that this is the most subjective part of my evaluation. I've had people already that I've met that some people don't like the superhero artwork. They don't like the old school feel of it. They like, different stuff. I love it. It hits my old comic book itch as a, an old superhero fan, an old Marvel fan, and it really just hits that for me. And I love the artwork they do. I love the different styles. Each hero and each color has its own artistic style to it. I can definitely tell where they were trying to go with certain classes, and I love it. But some people don't, and I get it, and that's totally fine. The third one is lore and story. This one gets a 5 stars for sure. Their lore and story, all I have to say is the game just came out and it already has a 100-page comic book, which is back on my shelf, which I can't go get. That points to the lore of the story and how everything started. It talks about the initial clash with Moxie and Magnate, all types of stuff. So if you're looking for a game that has like story and lore behind it to get you more invested in the characters and the decks you're playing, Alpha Clash probably is the best. I would actually say it's better than Flesh and Blood. People might get on me for that, and that's fine. It's not like League's better. I definitely think it edges Flesh and Blood out. They're both 5 stars, but like if I had to pick between the two, I actually think Alpha Clash right now has even better lore, which is pretty crazy to say. Next one is dev support. Definitely a 4-star. I'm not going to give it a 5 because I want to see what they do later in the future. But like I said before, when I think of developer support, I think of what elements are they giving the user outside of the actual game experience that helps enrich it, right? Do they have a deck builder that people can actively make digital decks and be able to like play around with different things and get access to cards in certain ways? Do they have an online client? Do they have a website that's very functional and very useful? Do they have a good community with a Discord and socials and things like that? And Alpha Clash is very above rate on all of those things. They have things that some card games usually have to have the community make, like a deck builder, if for one, is really, really solid. So they're definitely in the right direction when it comes to dev support. It's more of just, how are they going to continue to do that as time goes on? So be really interested to see. And then finally, depth of play, I'm going to give a 3-star. Mostly because they're too early for us to see like which way they're going to go. They do have some entry-level products with the Clash kits that's very good for starter level play. And then they also obviously have depth of play with deck building and like their organized play system they're eventually going to implement very seriously. So they're doing a really good job on depth of play. I'm just leaving it a 3-star because I want to see if they can continue to service the gamut of players as they grow, right? So that's just really important to me. So overall, I give Alpha Clash a 4-star. I think they're doing really good. Alpha Clash's biggest hurdle has nothing to do with themselves. It has to do with the fact that they are coming into the most competitive trading card market since like the 90s, and it's probably even more competitive. I wasn't like super old back then. I just know from based off, talking to others who are older than me in card games, but you have card games like Magic that are killing it. Love them or hate them, they're doing crazy collaborations and taking up a lot of market share. You have card games like Pokemon, which is even growing even more, which, they just had, like thousands and thousands of people watching the World Championship this past week in Japan. You have card games like One Piece and Flesh and Blood, which are starting to get to the point where people are saying, like, are they ever going to contend with the top 3? And then you have new games like Lorcana that's coming in Grand Archive, which are also taking up extreme market share. So they just have their biggest hurdle is the fact that they're coming into an extremely competitive market with a lot of new and old faces doing very, very well. So it's something they're going to have to contend with. So that is Alpha Clash. Next one is Battle Spirits Saga. So I've played this game a good amount. I bought a couple cases of both sets. And I've been more of a casual player with this. Also, any card game that I'm talking about on here, I've either played or researched a ton. I'm not going to talk about a game that I haven't. So if you're seeing a game missing, it's probably because I haven't personally played it. But Battle Spirit Saga, for mechanics, I give a 3-star. It's pretty good. It's almost a 4-star. Their mechanics are very even. What I like about Battle Spirit Saga that I will say is like they have a lot of decks that are viable. There are very strong decks in the format, but you can play a lot of different decks. Like there's a lot of different options available for you as a player, and I enjoy that about the game, right? That you can play basically whatever you want, and it's going to be pretty good. So I do give them a 3-star on that. It just really seems like none of the, I feel bad for saying this, but none of the mechanics excite me a ton. They're very simple, very standard. The whole moving cores around is it's a novel idea in a way, but right now they haven't found a way to help that increase the fun factor, in my opinion. It more was like a mechanic that was created of, hey, let's do something different, just to do something different, right? Just to have a different element that maybe will attract people. But does that actually increase the fun factor? I would say no, but that's just my opinion. So 3 stars on the mechanics. The artwork is where it kind of gets me. Again, this is completely subjective when it comes to artwork. I don't really align with the crazy monster style artwork that they have. Like I love Gundams. I love like that like big monster go boom type energy. Like I'm a huge anime fan, things like that. But some of these monsters are just a little bit out there, right? Like, and they're very almost look like Frankenstein level put together. And I don't know if that was intended or not, but I think it can be a turnoff, and it's not a very approachable art style, in my opinion. That's just what I think, but some people love it, and it's totally fine. Then you have lore and story. Again, 2-star, not very big on this. There is some, but not a ton compared to other card games. So really nothing crazy excites me on that one. Dev support is a 3-star. They're pretty standard, right? There's a deck builder you can use. Their website's okay, but really it's nothing insanely complex. I would say they're a 3-star really overall on that. And then finally, depth of play. This is where they get the worst. They're definitely a 2-star on depth of play. It's more of a competitive based game. They don't have a lot of like new player friendly stuff, in my opinion. It's pretty like cookie cutter and dry when it comes to that. So overall, I would give them a 2-star as a game. I do enjoy the game. I play it casually just for fun, but honestly, it's just a little bit too much going on. They did a lot of different things without actually increasing the fun factor, in my opinion. And it's just kind of like another title in the Bandai saga, no pun intended, of them just kind of like, trying something different. So that's just my opinion, but some people may disagree, and some people love the game and have done really well with it. Next one is Digimon. I'm going to try to hold my bias because I love this game. Mechanics, I will give it a 4-star. There are some loop factors with Digimon. There are some feel-bad mechanics where people just draw the right thing and you die. It's similar to YuGiOh where people can just like OTK you truly. However, because of the constant draw mechanic and the constant way to build up your units, I think that there's a lot less feel bad when it comes to like playing out your deck than other card games. Other card games you truly can brick. And in this game you can brick too, but it's just a little bit more consistent in my opinion. So it's either a 3 or a 4-star, like maybe 3.5. I'll just give it a 4-star. I think the mechanics are pretty good. What's been hard is like the mechanics of the game are insanely solid, but the meta itself is a little swingy, which is what makes it a little bit difficult. Then you have artwork. It's Digimon. I'm just going to put it a 3-star. If you love Digimon, you're going to love this game. If you've never watched Digimon, you might not like this artwork. I love it because I was a Digimon kid growing up over being a Pokemon kid. So I would, as a bias, I would put it a 4-star, but I'm going to put it as a 3 because it really, anything that's an IP-based game like Digimon, One Piece, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm going to put it 3-star. I don't care what, like if people get mad at that, because it really, it depends if you like the IP or not. Like that's what most people align with when it comes to this stuff. So that's just kind of how that is. Lore and story, same thing, 3-star, nothing crazy. Wouldn't really put it on that. Dev support, this is where it's getting a little bit worse. I put them at 2-star. Their organized play system is very lackluster in my opinion. They've had trouble with tournaments, like not having like notable tournaments in forever. They're really struggling on that end. They do have like obviously an organized play system, but it's been very inconsistent at times, and especially in the US. And I feel like that, yes, it's good, but it compared to other card games, like they don't have like all of the tools at their disposal at a consistent rate that other card games have, which makes it very, very difficult. And finally, Depth of Play. I do give them a 4-star in this. Their starter decks are some of the best systems I have ever seen from a card game. And so, sorry, my cat's wanting to like do something. Their Depth of Play is very good. Their starter decks are really, really good. And a lot of their starter decks are actually pretty tuned, right? I remember getting there's 2 or 3 different starter decks I've gotten where you only had to replace like 5 to 10 cards in order to make the starter deck like tuned to its actual competitive version. So I definitely think their Depth of Play is really good. And they also obviously have really in-depth play when it comes to the professional side or the competitive side, although their competitive games are a little bit swingy at the moment or a little bit like top heavy, to be completely honest. So overall, Digimon, I would give them a 3-star. They're kind of just like a good solid game right now. The organized play system's a little bit shaky, but that's just kind of where it falls for me. Then we have Flesh and Blood. Okay, I am going to hold bias on this. I promise. I really do promise on this. I will hold bias. So mechanics, they're a 5-star. I mean, that's not even like a bias thing. I think Flesh and Blood's calling card, no pun intended, is that they have really solid mechanics. The game is extremely balanced in comparison to other card games. Incremental value is so important. Just all of that in general. Their mechanics are just great, right? And they have very, it's a very complex system and game-wise, but it also is simple enough for people to understand. When you talk about competitive level play, then it starts to get extremely complicated. I think that's their biggest barrier right now, honestly. But they have very solid mechanics, very even mechanics, and something that I think is going to continue as time goes on. Artwork, it really depends on what your thought process is. I think their artwork's a 4-star. To have a non-IP backed game have the depth of artwork that they've had, and especially over the past couple sets, they've really like changed up the style of their artwork very consistently. Outsiders was very gory and very like crazy with cards like Shred and stuff like that. And then they have like, Bright Lights is coming out. They've had games like, or sets like Everfest that have done really well. And then they also have had, again, more gory sets like the most recent one with Shadow Runeblade stuff. They definitely like change up their art style very, very consistently, but it's to the lore and to the style that set itself. So it does really well with that. So artwork, I give it a 4. I think honestly that's like the most non-subjective rating of any artwork I can give, because since it's not backed by an IP and they're not, doing certain things, I think it's pretty standard. Lore and story is a 5-star. Like I said, I think they're slightly below Alpha Clash, but they do so good at doing Tibbet's lore. They do such a great job at servicing the lore too. The way they show it, they do very like little increments of lore, and they just give you like little spoonfuls over and over and over. And then they allow the community to connect the dots, right? They have an entire lore book dedicated to the game as well, similar to Alpha Clash, right, where you can get a background and everything. Just really, really good. Definitely a step up to other card games and something that you should definitely check out. Then we have dev support. Dev support, I'm going to give a 3, and people might hate on me for this. They have a fantastic organized play system, and that actually might bump them up to a 4-star. And if you were to say 4, I would not disagree with you. They don't have an innate deck builder. That was created by a third party. They don't have an online client. Their website, while fantastic for articles and to kind of as a news hub and as organized play hub, it's very good for that. You could argue 4-star solely for their website, but I think they're focused really heavily on competitiveness and organized play. So if you're weighing a lot of things of dev support on their organized play system, I think they're a 4 or 5-star. If you're talking about dev support from like everything else, I think they're like a 3 or a 4-star. That's just my opinion. So I'm going to put it a 3. It could definitely be a 4, and if you put it at a 4, I wouldn't disagree with you. I just would initially put it at a 3. Then you have depth of play. This is where I think they struggle. I'm going to put it at a 2-star. I think their entry level systems of play are very shallow and it struggles. Flesh and Blood's premier, in my opinion, their premier positiveness is their competitive play and their ability to get invested in the heroes you're playing and the decks you're playing. The problem is the cost of entry for even a semi-competitive deck is several $100s, and it's very, very expensive. In comparison to other card games, it's extremely expensive. So they need good casual level kits. And right now, their pre-con decks are very bad. Just frankly, very bad. They're kits with like the Dorian Reinhardt stuff. It's really cool and neat. Sorry, I got the hiccups. It's really cool and neat, but the problem is Flesh and Blood, you need a semi-tuned deck in order to really get a feel for how the game plays. There is a stark difference in how the game feels to play with the precons and with the starter kits than it does with a tuned deck. And yes, that's true to an extent for every card game that has like starter kits and then real decks. But like, for example, I can play Digimon starter decks or Alpha Clash's starter decks, Clash kits, and the game feels the same. I feel the same fun factor. I feel the same power when I draw my good cards. I feel the same mechanically, right? It just feels like I'm not quite as powerful as I could be, but I'm still experiencing the game in the way it's meant to be experienced. The pre-con decks for Flesh and Blood do not feel like Flesh and Blood. It feels like you are playing with blindfolded with a broken leg. It really does. It's been my biggest gripe, if you can call it that, with the game so far, and I hope they improve it. And I think they are with bright lights, like being able to do the shuffle up and play with cracking packs, doing ways to make people get into limited, which is really cool. I just hope that they actually bring a good starter deck like kit for people. Give a 2-deck kit that's actually decent, and gives people like the full experience of what the game is. I think they definitely need to improve that. So overall, Flesh and Blood for me gets 5 stars. Regardless, the game is extremely popular. However, if you are a casual player and you are not looking to play hyper competitively, right now, I'll be straight up honest, this game's a 2 or a 3 star. This game is not meant for the casual player in a trading card game. It's not meant to just crack packs and play. It's not meant to just grab a few star decks and play. I would not do that. This game is meant for competitive players right now until they change their marketing system. And that's just my opinion. Grand Archive. So Grand Archive mechanics, definitely a 4-star, potentially a 5. Grand Archive is super good. The mechanics feel very good. I love the mana system of putting a card face down or putting cards similar to like Lorcana, cards from your hand as your mana system, similar to Alpha Clash. It's a really cool thing though when you pick them back up. Like it is similar to Alpha Clash and them in that way, but it also like being able to swap like your mana system is really cool. The card mechanics feel very balanced. Even though there are some powerful heroes in the game, there's a way to beat them all. And I just like the mechanics overall. None of the mechanics are a feel bad. I think it's very solid. The game is in a very good spot mechanically. Artwork, the game, I think the game, I'll be unbiased. The game's a 4-star artwork wise. If you like the anime art style, it's going to be a 5-star for you. If you don't like anime artwork, it's going to be a 1-star. But for me, if I'm thinking of it as objective as humanly possible, I think their artwork's very intricate. I think it's very pretty. I think it's very good. Their card stock's amazing. One of the better card stocks in my opinion, with like the textured backs and stuff. So really, really solid there. And I think the artwork's in a really good spot. Lore and story right now, maybe I just haven't looked into it as much as I should, but there isn't an apparent lore to the game. Like there obviously is lore and it's there, but in comparison to other card games, I think it's a little bit below average. Especially with like an anime backdrop, you think they would be able to, not an anime IP that's backing them, but an anime backdrop in general, you think they'd have a little bit more to that. It's not like really super bad. I'm not like shaying on it. I'm just giving it a 2-star because as much as I've played the game, I'm not super in on the lore as other people are. So that's just where I have it. Dev support, I'll give it a 3-star. It's just solid. It's good, right? They have ways to deck build. They have a good website. They have pretty consistent communication with their community. They just had a tournament that sold out in minutes, right back in Houston a little bit ago. They're doing really good with the dev support. Organized play system is there. People are wanting to buy the product. They're supporting people with different levels of product. it's doing really well. So I'd say it's just a solid 3 right now. It could be more, but I'm gonna put it at a 3. And then finally, depth of play. I give this a 4-star. They have fantastic starter decks that feel really good to play. It gives you the full true experience of the game with also giving you the ability to upgrade it. They have several starter decks, right? Even from the newer sets. And then they also have starter kits in general, different types of kits that you can get. But then they have the hyper competitive play as well. So depth of play is definitely a 4-star. Overall, I give Grand Archive a 4-star as well. I think the game's in a really good spot. People want to play the game all the time. Super popular. I don't think it's shaky at all. I think it's one of the premier new TCGs beside Lorcana and other games, even Alpha Clash. So that's where I put the game itself. Then we have Lorcana. Okay. I'm going to give a 2-second bias. I don't like Lorcana as a card game. I don't. I think I'm going to say this my piece, and then I'm going to go back to being objective. I don't like the card game as a whole. I think it's more of a scalper's game. I think it's like a very popular version of MetaZoo. It blows my mind, the like distribution issues they're having, and like just a bunch of stuff that I think it's like it's a big feels bad to me as a card game player, but regardless, I'm going to do it objectively and we'll talk about it. So mechanics, I give mechanics a 3-star. I think the game doesn't really do anything super novel, but it doesn't do anything bad. The game feels fun to play from a casual level. The mana system with ink is really cool. But overall, I think mechanically, it's just kind of like they didn't really do anything to add on to the TCG space, but they didn't take anything away either, right? It's just like casual, good fun. And I think the mechanics reflect that. So definitely 3-star for mechanics. Artwork, I'm going to leave it a 3-star. It's an IP-packed game. Like I said with Digimon, if you like Disney stuff, this is going to be a 5-star from you if you're a Disney fan. If you're not a Disney fan, this is probably a 1-star, right? So just put it at a 3-star. The artwork's really good for what it is, but it just depends if you like the IP or not, to be completely honest. Lore and story, you have to give this a 5-star. Like, if you give it anything less, it's Disney. It just depends if they're going to be able to communicate the lore and the story of Disney characters properly. If they can, it's going to be a 5-star. If they don't, it's going to be a 1-star. I'm giving it a 5-star because it's Disney. Like, you kind of have to. If you don't, it's just kind of... If you talk about, like, their direct support so far, then it's a 2 or a 3 because they really haven't done anything yet. So, sure, we'll keep it a 4. They have all the ammo they possibly need to have an amazing story backing to everything with the decks and the lore and system, but really it just depends if they want to use it or not. Dev support, this is where I give it a 2. I don't like what they're doing personally. I don't think they're doing a lot. They do have like deck builder and they do have like support in different ways. They did something at Gen Con where they had tons of people like weighing. They have different elements that make it really good, but I don't like their distribution, right? You're telling me a company that is backed by the Disney IP cannot make enough distribution to give to stores. Like, there's stores that got cleared for organized play that aren't going to have enough product to even do anything, right? Like, it's a big feels bad. I don't like the way they've handled organized play. This isn't going to be a Lorcana rant video, but I truly do think, like, there's just some fishy things, right? It doesn't make sense. It seems more like a scalper's game than a true competitive game, or not even competitive game, but a trading card game for fun. It's going to be almost impossible to get product. And until they fix that issue, dev support's a 2-star for me. It almost is a 1-star, but I'll just put it at 2 so y'all don't come at me in the comments too much. Depth of play, I'm going to put it a 3-star. It's very good for casual. I think this is a casual TCG in terms of casual fans enjoying it. Hyper competitive players are not going to enjoy it as much, I think, just because the mechanics are very simple. I don't think there's a lot of depth there from my experience, like messing with the game so far. But they definitely have a lot of like starter level stuff that's really good. And the game is deep enough to satisfy the competitive players to a certain level. It's just, can it long term is the question. So until they figure that out, I just put it at a 3-star. Overall, Lorcana to me is a 3-star. So when you talk about the card game itself and not the marketing and popularity, I think the card game is a 3-star. But when it comes to like people wanting it and how good it's going to do, I think it's going to be a 5-star. People are going to want this game. They're going to want to play it. Right now it's going strong because of sales, but it's going to be interesting to see like how much the distribution actually affects them long term. So maybe we meet somewhere in the middle if y'all won't kill me for it and put it at a 4-star. But as a marketer, I don't like it. because it's a 2 or a 3, but as a trading card game player. But if I'm looking at objectively, like they're killing it in interest and attention and initial like interest in sales and things like that. So it is what it is when it comes to that. Then we have Magic. This one will be pretty quick. Magic's mechanics, I think, are a 3. I think I'm putting them as a 3 because they're the standard, but they're starting to be archaic in a way. There's a lot of card games now that are implementing new ways, like better ways of using Magic's mechanics while also adding on other things to the space. And I think Magic right now is in a place where they're focusing more on like collaborative IPs and like the marketing of the game, not the mechanics of the game. It is the original like TCG when it comes to mechanics, so you have to give it some respect there. But overall, I think other games are just catching up mechanically, and I think it's surpassing it. And I think Magic is starting to get hurt on that, where it's like the same old when it comes to the mechanics. That's just my opinion. Artwork's always really good. It's starting to become IP based, right? And I think it really just depends if you like the collaboration they're doing or not, to be honest. But the artwork overall is constantly evolving with the new collaborations and new IP collaborations. So, you know, it really just depends on if you like that set or not and that style. Like some people love Lord of the Rings, some people might not. Some people love, you know, Dungeons and Dragons, some people don't. Things of that nature, right? I love the old sets, and not old sets, but I love stuff like Throne of Eldraine, you know, old sets like that really gave like this cool look. Even Strixhaven, even though it was kind of like a crappy set power wise, I think I liked like the, you know, the mages and the wizards and stuff like that. It's just really cool. And they constantly are evolving that with the new IPs. So you have to give them a 4-star on that. Lore and story is 5, obviously. There is so much lore and background to this game. It's insane. It really just depends if you want to find it. You could say it's a 4-star because they don't really focus on the lore as much, in my opinion, like from a marketing perspective, but they have so much, like you can't not give them a 5. It's just how it is. Dev support, I'm going to give them this is hard. I'm going to give them a 3 because I think that they're not supporting their community the way. It's so hard. It's like from a sentiment standpoint, they're a 3. I think a lot of people are struggling with some things that they're doing with the creator program and with, you know, the way they're supporting different things and the prices of things and organized play and how that's evolving. But when you look at sales, like you have to give them at least a 4 in what they're doing. But sentiment wise, I think they're a 3 right now. And then you have depth of play. When it comes to servicing the new player to the experienced player, I do think Magic does a really good job at this. I think there's definitely things for new players out there. There's things for experienced players. It really just depends on what you want to do. I definitely think they have a good range for that. So overall, I think you have to give Magic a 4. I personally don't like what they're doing with like the sales and like how expensive things are and the constant changing of IPs. But hey, like the waves they're making, good or bad, love or hate them, is really strong. So you have to give them that respect. I personally am not a Magic fan. I don't play the game. I don't enjoy the game, but I do respect what they're doing from a collaborative standpoint. It's almost like Fortnite, where they're like really just the world's their oyster when it comes to collaborations and what they're doing. So I think that you have to put some respect on that, to be honest. Then you have MetaZoo. This one's gonna be quick. Mechanics, 1 star. You can hate on me. I don't like the game. The game's a scalper's game. Artwork is like a 3. Lore and story, I've never even bothered to look into it. 1 star. I just know the game because I helped sell it when I was working at a trade or a local game store. Dev support, if you're a scalper, it's like a 4-star. If you're a player, it's very low. And depth of play is very low. MetaZoo is probably the one that I put on here. I probably should have just taken off because it's going to be negative for me. I give it a 2-star, maybe even a 1-star. The game is a scalper's game. It's been a scalper's game since it first came out. They've banned people from their organized play tournaments for no reason on stupid stuff. They haven't really supported their competitive community. It's really just been a game where people basically try to make a quick buck. It's similar to like, you know, the NFT community. It's really funny. I don't like the game inherently. I won't spend a lot of time on it. So people, if you're a MetaZoo fan, you can roast me in the comments. That's fine. My Hero Academia. So I'm going to talk about My Hero Academia and universes in general. I think this is a really interesting one to talk about. Mechanically, I think the game, so you have to look at it mechanically from 2 different aspects. Look at the mechanics themselves and how swingy the games are. So the mechanics themselves, Universe's games in general, right, with the foundation system and attacks and like the fighting game style mechanics is very good. Very, very good. I think it's a 4-star. I didn't put Dragon Ball Z actually in this card list, but it's similar to like Dragon Ball Super. And I think you could even put Dragon Ball Super with the same grades I'm giving My Hero, where mechanically it's really good. The issue is right now it's a little bit too swingy. There's a couple turn 2 decks that can just wipe you if they draw the right cards and you just lose. And I think they need to fix the swinginess of their games. I do like how powerful my cards feel when I play them in this game. And I think the mechanics, and when the games do go longer, are extremely in-depth and extremely fun. It's just they got to get rid of that. They have to dial back the swinginess just a little bit on this game in order to make it more solid. Artwork is a 3. If you like the My Hero TCG, you're going to love this game. If you don't like the My Hero TCG, you're probably not going to love this game's art. It really depends. I wish they would go away from the stock photos a little bit and use like original art. That's just my opinion, but I do know approvals with anime companies has got to be egregiously hard, so you can't fault them too much on that, on what they're allowed to use or not allowed to use. Dev support, they do a pretty good job. They have UVS Ultra. I'd give it a 3-star. They have UVS Ultra to help deck build. There's definitely ways to figure out. They do a really good job in their Discord of doing like weekly online tournaments with weekly webcam Wednesdays. They have monthly Monday tournaments. And then even you can go to like other Discords like Unfun Stuff and do like the Friday events. They do constant updates and play. Really, most of their weakness is actually like balancing their game. But outside of that, they do a pretty good job at like supporting it and giving like consistent communication. So I would give them a pretty good score on that one. And then depth of play, this is similar to Digimon. They do a fantastic job. There's starter decks that do really well. There's starter, formats that do really well. I think like from casual player to hyper competitive, you can have fun with this game and enjoy it, especially if you like the trading card game. Maybe if you want to make it a 4, because if you don't like the trading card game, maybe you wouldn't like it as inherently quickly, but I do think they have a strong depth of play from casual to competitive overall. So overall, I give My Hero a 3-star. I think right now they're kind of in a flux of like changing their brand with universes and changing a couple different things, and eventually My Hero is probably going to go away at some point and go into Trigun Stampede. Like that's just what Universes does. They change IPs, so that's a little bit feels bad, but it all depends. I think if you like this game, you like it because of the Universes system as a whole. You don't like it just because of My Hero. If you like it just because of My Hero, it's probably a little bit worse for you. If you like it because you like this style of game, then that's obviously a little bit better. So get into that. Then you have One Piece. So One Piece is similar to Flesh and Blood. One Piece is freaking killing it. Their mechanics, 5-star. Super in-depth mechanics, super in-depth play, but also simplistic to understand, very balanced, very fun. They do have some powerful decks right now. Newgate is a menace, right? Even with the 2 bans it's gotten in restrictions, it's still stupid good. Zoro, still stupid powerful. Law, still stupid powerful, right? They have really powerful decks, but their mechanics feel good to play, and there's enough range in the decks as a whole to still make it somewhat balanced. Like you have Newgate, Lucci, Law, Zoro. You've even seen a couple Don Quixotes do really well. Some yellow decks are popping up. So their mechanics are really solid. Their meta is a little bit top heavy, but not enough to where it's unhealthy in my opinion. They just need to do a couple tweaks. So definitely give it a 5-star there. Artwork, it's a 3-star. If you like One Piece, you're going to love this game. If you've never watched One Piece, you probably won't like it. But the artwork itself is pretty good. It's more stock-based, but I think they just kind of have to do that because of approvals. But that's just how it is. Lore and story, again, I'm going to do it a 3. If you like the One Piece, they have access to all the lore and story in the world. There's 1,000 One Piece episodes. So if they use those properly, it's going to be really good. If they don't, then it goes down. But it really just depends if you like the anime or not. So you kind of have to keep that as a 3. Dev support, I'd actually put it a 2. Only because like they don't have an inherent online client. They don't have an inherent deck builder. All that's been like third-party built. Their website's pretty shallow. Their online community and Discord is good, but it's pretty fan-led. They don't do a whole lot to support that. Now, the organized play system, fantastic, right? They have a lot of online tournaments. 1,000+ players selling out constantly. Their organized play is insane, and that's where they're rising right now. Like, the attention and organized play for One Piece is actually unbelievable. It's bigger than Flesh and Blood, in my opinion. It's bigger than any card game that's not Yu-Gi-Oh, Pokemon, or Magic. It's, in my opinion, you have the big three, and I actually would put One Piece at 4th in terms of biggest card game right now, and Flesh and Blood would be 5th. That's just my opinion. But their dev support, organized play, it's a 5-star, right? When it's non-organized play, it's probably a 2-star. And then depth of play for casual to competitive, I give it a 4-star. They have really good starter decks that do a really good job at teaching the game. The game feels really good to play with the starter decks. Doesn't feel different. You still feel the same mechanics and still feel the same flow that you would with a tune deck, just not quite as powerful. They also have hyper competitive decks, obviously. Super, super good for that. So overall, One Piece for me is a 5-star. I think the game's doing really good. The game's insanely popular. It's growing astronomically. It's past Flesh and Blood slightly a little bit, in my opinion, in terms of popularity and strength. And I think right now you have the big three, and then you have One Piece. That's just my opinion. Then Pokemon mechanics. Pokemon's like, it all depends. Mechanics is so hard. If you're a casual player, Pokemon's mechanics are a 4 or 5-star. They just feel fun to play, right? You have the Gym Leader Challenge, which is like old school Pokemon, like we all grew up on. Then you have like their new version, which is really good. If you're a hyper competitive player, their mechanics probably honestly are a 2-star for you. So we're just going to put it at a 3-star. If you're a casual fan or casual competitive player who loves Pokemon, loves like quick to play fun games, it's probably a 4 or 5-star mechanically. If you're a hyper competitive player and you're looking for super crazy balance and, you know, like grindy value games, there's probably a 2-star. It's not as big as other games, but it's still really good. And I give it a 3-star overall for mechanics. Artwork, 3-star. If you love Pokemon, you love Pokemon. If you don't love Pokemon, you probably won't like this game. That's just how it goes. Lore and story, same thing, 3-star. Dev support, pretty solid. They have an online client. They have a online deck builder. Their website does really good updates. They have a good community. It really just depends if you like the game or not. Pokemon is the most 3-star game right now because it's bigger than just a card game. It's an IP that defined a generation of childhoods, right? So you kind of have to take it at that value as well, not just like a standard card game. So because of that, it's a little bit harder to evaluate. Like this game, technically right now, if we're not even talking about evaluations, it's just 5 stars because the game's selling like crazy. People collect it for multiple reasons, like from competitive play to casual play to collecting. It's really good. But their depth of play, I'd say is a 3-star. Maybe a 4, probably a 3. It's more aligned with, sorry about that. It's more aligned with, I have 5 stars up. It's more aligned with casual than competitive, but there are obviously hyper competitive organized play systems and things of that nature, but it's definitely a lot of their product is for starter level people, right? To be able to get into semi-competitive. But the majority of their market share for depth of play is semi-competitive to casual. So that's that one. Gosh, I'm all over the place. I've had too many games. Then we have Shadowverse Evolve. This one I haven't had as much experience as my other games. I have looked into it, though. I really like this game. It's like not similar to Grand Archive, but if you like Grand Archive, I think you'll like Shadowverse. I think it has similar stuff. I'm not going to do like a star rating, star to star. Mechanics, it seems like a 3-star. It's pretty standard. Pretty good. Artwork, if you like the anime art style, you're going to like this game. If you don't, you don't. The lore and story, same thing. This really is like, this is built for like the anime fans, in my opinion, even more than Grand Archive. And I think it kind of goes into that, but it also has like the hero-based system that Flesh and Blood does. Depth of play is something I can't really go on, but overall, I haven't played this enough. I've played it enough to give a rating, like an overall rating, but to go super in depth line by line, I can't do. Probably should have left it off, but overall, I give it a 3-star. Then we have Sorcery. This one is similar to Lorcana. I want to withhold my personal bias. I will say one thing. This game has taken way too long to come out. It's going to be interesting to see how it happens when the prices of boxes are going up astronomically for alpha. It seems like product might be a little bit difficult to get, depending on distribution. Not as bad as Lorcana, but still bad enough. And at $125 a box, it does seem, from what I've seen, for the set that's coming out, right, not alpha, it's going to be interesting to see how much people care. When it comes to mechanics, I give it a 3-star. It's similar to Lorcana, where it's a very this is meant for kitchen table. This, in my opinion, is not meant for the hyper competitive player. This is meant for the trading card fun game enthusiast who wants to play games for fun with friends and family. Maybe semi-competitive at times, but really this is trying to hit the nostalgia heart of how TCGs were played back in the day. And I think because of that, mechanics get a 3. Its art is really cool. I liked its art. I'm going to give it a 3 because its art's very unique. Its art is very like old school watercolory. I don't know if that's the best way to put it. But I think you're either like this. The reason I'm giving it a 3 is because with this artwork, you were either going to love it. It's a 5-star or it's a 1-star. There's no in between. And so because of that, I think you need to kind of put it right in the middle. Lore and story, I can't give a rating on. I haven't looked into it enough in order to give a rating on it. I hope it's pretty good. That one I haven't done as much as I should. Dev support, they're definitely doing a lot of good things overall to be able to showcase the game. They have a good community going. Really, it's just getting the game in hands of players. The game's been pushed back so many times at this point. It's basically like the cyberpunk of trading card games, where if they push it back any farther, if they don't absolutely kill the release, it's really gonna backfire on them sentiment wise. So we'll have to see how the dev support goes. But overall, they've done a good job of communicating, giving updates, giving Kickstarter stuff, doing all that stuff. So overall, dev support's in a good enough spot. Depth of play, I'm gonna put it a 2-star only because not because the game's a negative, but because this is meant for the casual kitchen table, right? This isn't like casual, like Pokemon level casual, but it's kind of in the middle where I think that people are just going to enjoy playing this game for what it is and not look to make it super competitive. That's just my opinion. So because of that, I'm going to give it a 2-star. Overall, Sorcery's a 3. I think this is the biggest wait and see TCG out of all of them. I think we're going to have to really kind of see what happens with it. It definitely has a ton of attention. Ton of people are buying it. Ton of people are scalping it. It's similar to Lorcana in terms of hype, but it's just going to depend on, kind of how it's executed once it fully comes out. And then Cardfight Vanguard, this one, it's just going to be 2 stars across the board. I think the game is in a really bad spot. I think the game's slowly going away, which sucks because it has a ton of sales. But I think the game's just not in a great spot. I think it's a little bit too muddied. The game doesn't know quite what it wants to do right now. It's just kind of relying on IPs to help carry it. But if you like the IPs that are a part of this game, you'll love this game. If you don't, then you probably won't play this game. And I think because of that, it's a little bit hard to get into. Although in other countries, it's sold extremely well. And it's very, very popular in comparison to other games. Not extremely well, but well. So overall, I give it a 2-star, though, to be completely honest. Then we have YuGiOh, one of the big 3. Mechanics, I don't like the mechanics of this game. I give it a 2-star. People are going to hate me. Please don't come at me, YuGiOh fans. You all are the most intense. But there's a lot of loop decks in this game. There's a lot of like crazy mechanics that are very complex to understand. And then when you lose, you're like, how the heck did I even just lose? Like, you just did ability. It's like watching for Flesh and Blood players. If you're still watching this, y'all are homies, but it's like playing a Kano every single time. Like, you're playing a deck where you're like, you're doing a bunch of stuff. You're saying a bunch of things. You're throwing a bunch of cards everywhere, and I don't know what you're doing, and now I'm dead. That's literally what it feels like half the time I play this game. It's not like the game I grew up on with old school Yu-Gi-Oh! So because of that, I give it a 2-star. Artwork is a 3. If you like Yu-Gi-Oh! You're going to love it. If you don't like Yu-Gi-Oh! You're not going to love it. Same thing with lore and story. Dev support's a 3 as well. They're just kind of like there. The online client is there and does a really good job, and the deck builder, but overall, I think they're just kind of like, maintain status quo with the IP. And then Def of Play, I'm going to give a 2-star. I think that this game is for the not even hyper competitive, the hyper Yu-Gi-Oh! Competitive fan. I don't think it has a lot of support for new players. If you're not into Yu-Gi-Oh! Innately, it's going to be hard for you to get into this game. Decks are pretty expensive. Not insanely expensive, but pretty expensive. Decks are constantly changing. It's not really new player friendly, in my opinion, as other card games are. So overall, Yu-Gi-Oh!, in terms of popularity, the game's a 4-star, right? It's part of the big 3, essentially, right? You have Magic, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh! But in terms of where the game is at for a new player, I'd actually put it at a 2-star. But that's just kind of like how I look at it overall. And then we're here. So that's all the card games. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this. I definitely will put timestamps on this considering it was a 50-minute video. Hopefully my stuff made sense. I tried to go as in-depth as I could while also keeping it surface level to kind of give you like a quick snapshot of each game. Hopefully it was as useful. If anything I said didn't make sense or you don't agree with, please leave a comment down below. I'd love to hear it. Love to get your feedback on it. And yeah, hope you all enjoyed this. Let me know what you think, and I'll see y'all next time on TCG Talk. Thank y'all so much.